Welcome, my name is Oliver. I am a robot, but enough about me. This isn't about me, this is about Saul, and Richard, and video games, and the universe. So come with us, or more specifically, with them, enter the save state, save state, save state, save state, save state.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Save State Gaming Podcast.
We made it, baby, yeah!
Back again for another week. My name's Saul.
I'm Richard Hornby, and thank you once again for joining us.
How are you doing today? You alright?
I'm well, thank you. You asking me or asking them?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm doing wonderfully well. I've been working my little tucker shop all day long, but I'm feeling good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Good.
How about you? How are you doing, man?
Good, yeah, a little bit, a bit rough today. I spent last night drinking some lovely Spanish rum with a friend of mine who I've not seen in about 10 years. So really good catching up with him, but a bit worse for wear today, but I'll power through it. I've had my coffee, I've had my paracetamol. Pretty good, feeling pretty good.
Uh-oh. He's got an aching head, an upset stomach, and an empty gun.
What you need is some Alka-Seltzer. You know what they always say.
Yeah, a Mountie always gets his man.
Oh, no, I mean about Alka-Seltzer. Relief is just a swallow away.
Well,
Down, 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 the stomach through. Round, 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 the system too. With Alka-Seltzer, they always say, relief is just a swallow away.
bless that relief-giving Alka-Seltzer.
So, let's get straight into it. What have we been playing this week? Well, in fact, let's start with this, right? Last week, if anybody listened to the Car Boot episode, they'll know that we went to Car Boots and we picked up a game called Babe.
We did.
Which is, if you didn't know, a tie-in to the kids' movie of the same name about a pig who goes on a pretty wild adventure.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Unfortunately, the game doesn't really stand up to the high quality that the film set. It's probably one of the worst games I've ever played.
Have we played the same game? This is Babe for the PlayStation 2, right?
Correct, yeah.
The one that Mario Galaxy clearly stole most of its ideas from. The one that Portal 2 clearly stole most of its motifs from.
Yeah.
The one that Hideo Kojima clearly gets all of his ideas from.
I mean, yeah, you can trace the lineage of Babe back to some very important games, like you're saying. Yeah.
Like the original Metal Gear Solid. In fact, it's a trailblazer of gaming design. We, of course, are completely taking the piss right now.
Well, yeah, because Babe was actually released several years after the original Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, but it's Hideo Kojima. Time means nothing to this man. He travels back and forth through time, taking inspiration from Babe, from Mozart, and from the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, but basically, it's a pretty bad game. Like, the graphics look like they were lifted straight off a PlayStation 1 game. Gameplay is absolutely shit, and the story is pig shit.
Pig shit.
Pardon the pun. Yeah.
Yeah. How apropos. Well, not pardon that pun.
No.
But yeah, we're a bit disappointed. We feel like we've wasted the money, and we spent a lot of money on that. How much was it again, Sol?
That was about 20p.
About 20p.
But still a waste of money.
We could have bought a chomp for that if it was 1994.
Yep. So let's move on from Babe.
Yes, let's not move on. Let's run the fuck away from Babe.
Anything else? What else have you been playing this week?
Well, I'm continuing my voyage on trying to get every N64 game I had as a child, and I got myself a copy of Turok 2: The Dinosaur Hunter.
Nice.
I am Turok.
To be honest, this is one of the games I was really looking forward to on my little voyage down Nostalgia Lane. I used to love this game, and I've got it back again. I got it for like £5 off eBay, as you do. It's a really great time to be getting N64 games because they're so cheap as chips. Apart from the real ones.
The real classics,
like Paper Mario and things like that. But Turok 2: The Dinosaur Hunter, £5. I got it back, and I got to tell you, man, I'm having a blast with this game once again.
Does it hold up?
It's a bit ropey in ways. It's certainly a first-person shooter of its time in that if you play a first-person shooter these days, you notice just how fine the movement is.
Yeah,
When you move a
how
little bit, it
fluid.
moves a little bit. How fluid, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. But the N64 sometimes on this Turok 2 Dinosaur Hunter games, and I'm sure it's the same as GoldenEye as anything else.
Yeah.
Feels a bit janky. When I'm trying to get the pinpoint accuracy on this, it's a bit hard. And Turok 2 isn't particularly an easy game, so it is a little bit nausea-inducing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been struggling with that a little bit, but when you get past that and you start to get on the same wavelength of this near 15, 16-year-old game, it was released in 1998, so I was like, Jesus, it's nearly 20 years old now.
Yeah, wow.
How old do you feel, Sol?
Very old.
Your beard definitely doesn't give you
Yeah.
away. But so it is a bit nausea-inducing, but it's fun when you get to grips with it. It's a challenge, and there's a lot to still love about this game. The enemy animations are amazing still. I mean, I mean that with all my heart.
Yeah.
I was watching and I was blown away by one of these enemies is like a yellow lizard thing that comes out and tries to get at you, and it was all pretty standard animation stuff, and then about an hour into it started doing different things. It started to legitimately dodge my bullets and was rolling around, and I couldn't shoot the little fucker. So it was just really interesting that there's the way it's designed, that enemies can act differently. For an N64, for a cartridge game, the space that it has to have that kind of AI, it's amazing.
Really smart.
But there's other great things about it. The sound design of this game is phenomenal. Still to this day, it holds up. And level 1, the port of Ada, you go into this port that's been overrun by these dinosaur monsters from another planet. And as you're going through this port that's been ravaged and destructed, and all the civilization has been destroyed, you can't see it, but you can hear it. You can hear babies crying, you can hear the screams of men as they breathe their final breaths, and same as horses dying, and it's just bizarre. But it really builds up. And for an N64 game, once again, I'm genuinely very impressed. So far on my voyage through the N64 lineage, this is the best game I've played so far.
My favourite thing about Turok 2 was the weapons for me. And in particular, the cerebral bore, man, was just
excellent.
One of my favourite weapons ever. Probably second only to the gravity gun from Half-Life.
I am Turok.
Recently, a couple of days ago, a demo, this is actually the first demo I've played in donkey's years, came out for Prey, which we touched on. This is a game that has lied dormant for years and years and years. It was an old franchise that we touched on a couple of weeks ago. So this is basically, it's not been remade, they've basically just rebranded it, I guess. They've taken the Prey branding and made it its own new thing.
Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032. You have a 9 a.m. appointment with Alex.
It's a first-person shooter that has incredible sort of Bioshock and Half-Life vibes. But then again, everything has Half-Life vibes. Half-Life was just so remarkable. But so basically, you wake up.
I was going to say, how long is the demo? Like, is it a timed demo? Is
It's described as the first hour. It isn't timed. I know that for a fact, because I made a note of checking what time I started it to see if it was timed. And I was going longer than that because I was just fucking around on Messenger and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I had longer than an hour. I didn't finish it, but it was great fun. It really subverts what reality is. I would just say that. Is reality really reality? Are we really here? Or are we all in some kind of giant experiment?
Good morning, Morgan. Looks like we have some tests to run through today.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's actually got almost nothing to do with it all. The original franchise of games, apart from just the name. In some ways, they could have called it a completely new IP, but then again, like the Prey name obviously carries a bit of weight, and some people still recognise it.
That's right, yeah. The Prey name for certain people will translate into sales, and that's why they've done it. Maybe there's more to it than what we're saying. It's all about, as I say, that whole mixing what reality is. It's really my bag. It's my jam.
Yeah.
I love that kind of storytelling.
Good morning, Morgan. You're not going to like what I have to say next.
Kim Jong, Kim Jong, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un. It's Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un. Watch.
A very important news update, actually, that's just come in. We have an update on Kim Jong Un Watch. Now, this is
what's he been up to now, the crazy bastard?
Well, a couple of things. A bit more posturing. He's actually developed what I'd like to call an ultra short-range ballistic missile. So he's been showing off, a bit to the States and the Western countries, saying, I've got these missiles, I'm going to shoot them across the Atlantic Ocean and, strike you from wherever we are in the world. But he seems to have regressed, and he's now, by the looks of it, been developing these missiles which they seem to travel about 8 feet, sometimes a little bit less than that.
Short-term missiles. Maybe his anger is cleaner. We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, it seems to be causing a lot of concern amongst some woodland critters around the launch sites that seem to be a little bit disturbed about these large explosions, and so they're having meetings about maybe moving further into the forest, further away from these missile launches. But hasn't been the best week for Kim Jong-un. He's probably feeling a little bit deflated, a little bit under the weather, and probably prepping for something very big in the near future. So maybe have some more updates on that this week.
On the subject of Kim Jong, what's his face? Didn't we get bless you? Didn't we get hits from South Korea recently?
We did.
I had a theory about this song.
So on our SoundCloud, we get to see where people are listening in from, and we had a listener from South Korea. So welcome, Mr. South Korea.
Welcome, Mr. South Korea. I know who you are, though. I've got a theory about this. Right, it's Kim Jong. What's his face? Bless you. He's clearly snuck across the border, across the what's that line called?
The DMZ, the
DMZ, the demilitarized zone. Kim Jong Un has clearly, got his shit and whatever. He's hopped over the fence to South Korea to listen to our podcast, and we appreciate that. You may be asking yourself why the dictator of said country has had to go to his sworn enemies to listen to our podcast, but that's because it's all from the top. The real leader of North Korea is clearly Kim Jong Un's mother, and you don't fuck with your mum, do you?
Well, I mean, maybe we are his chosen place for video game news. I would like to think so.
Something about that makes me feel quite happy.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, that we have a very famous, very horrible evil man that listens to our podcast.
Could you imagine if we got really, really famous, but just in North Korea?
I would love that. I would love that. I would go there in a heartbeat. It would be wild.
It'd be fine with all the fucking secret services going through my Tinder profile and shit like that. I'd take it on the chin.
Kim Jong, Kim Jong, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un. It's Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Un. Watch.
On to the news this week. Another fairly slow week for news.
Hey, Mr. Snowman, what was the Homer Simpson fucking... Hey, Mr. Plow, Mr. Plow.
That's my name
again,
Mr. Plow. It's Mr. Plow.
Great.
I'm glad we had that in discussion.
So the first piece of news this week is the PS Plus games for May have been announced. A pretty damn solid lineup in my opinion.
Yeah.
For PS4 players, we've got Tales from the Borderlands, which is
Telltale stuff. We talked about it last week. You're going to get some more of that Telltale goodness, people.
Yep.
This time in the realm of Borderlands. So Handsome Jack were there, I guess. I believe from the little I know about it, you actually work for Handsome Jack. It's like a prequel. You work in his enterprise.
Yeah, I don't know much about the story.
It's supposed to be really, really funny.
Yeah,
and it's an easy platinum. So
yeah. So there we go. So that'll be me. I'll give that one a play. Also, we've got Alien Nation, which is...
Nothing about this, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I played this, actually. I bought it when it came out, because I'm a big fan of Housemarque, the guys that made this game. They also made things like Resogun, which is just an absolutely fantastic game. So similar to that, if you ever played Helldivers, very similar to Helldivers in the fact that it's...
Did they make Helldivers as well?
No.
But it's similar,
very similar, yeah.
Twin-stick shooter.
So, multiplayer, twin-stick shooter, set on alien planets, killing lots of aliens. Think Starship Troopers, and you're pretty much there.
Yeah, so Helldivers all over again.
Yeah. But really good, really good. Not my favourite Housemarque game, but still a really good, solid effort from them. And then for PlayStation 3, we've got Blood Knights, which I haven't played, but it's basically a Diablo-esque kind of hack and slash multiplayer game where you can play co-op together, so dungeon crawling, getting loot, that kind of stuff. Not that interested in it, really. I don't think it's going to do anything better than Diablo, for example, so I'll probably give that one a miss. Port Royale 3 is a trading simulator by the looks of it, kind of in the vein of Sid Meier's Pirates, that kind of stuff. Again, not really that interested in it. Doesn't look that great, so I'll probably give that a miss. However, we come to the creme de la creme this month, which is the PlayStation Vita. For the Vita...
You're flogging a dead horse, Sol.
I will flog that dead horse into the ground because I love my Vita.
That dead horse is compost at the moment. It couldn't be more ground.
We've got Laser Disco Defenders, which is a top-down twin-stick bullet hell shooter with a kick-ass soundtrack.
Disco's dead, Sol.
It is dead, but not on the Vita, damn it.
Disco lives on the Vita, baby.
So that looks really good, really good. And we also have Type Rider, which is it's another game I played a while ago.
It sounds dyslexic proof, so I instantly don't like it.
It's not for you, no, not for you.
Is that a dig?
It's basically a game about calligraphy and typography. So it goes through the history of the written word. You play a colon, basically.
Those filthy
these
Phoenicians. 2
little dots that roll around the environment, and each environment is a different kind of typography, written kind of characters. So it's really, really cool. It takes a couple of hours to finish, but if anybody that listens to this podcast is also interested in the history of writing, then this is definitely a game for you.
Sweet, cool.
So if there is anybody that applies. If anybody has been following this, it's been going over for the last couple of years. Vivendi seems to be increasing their acquisition of Ubisoft. So last few years they've been slowly but surely buying up shares. Vivendi being a French company, French kind of media conglomerate, I guess you could call them.
Okay, yeah.
Ubisoft, obviously, the publishers of some very, very well-known franchises like Assassin's Creed, that kind of stuff.
And they've been rocking it recently. Though I heard that Ghost Recon Wildlands is the best-selling game this year.
Yeah, it's done phenomenally well.
Why?
Nobody seems to be
Stop
talking
buying
about
this
it.
shit. No one's talking about it yet.
Yeah,
it's just an amalgamation of every other fucking Ubisoft game mixed with every other well-selling fucking game stereotype. That's why it's selling well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they do best, right? They make pretty good selling
Turn
games.
out that bullshit.
Yep. They're not necessarily the best, but they seem to sell.
I give them a hard time, but I actually don't hate them that much. I quite like Ubisoft.
Yeah.
They've slipped in last couple of years. Remember 2013, I had them as my favourite games developer or games publisher of the year because they got Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag out, and they got
Far Cry as well.
Far Cry 3 came out that year. You're absolutely right, with the amazing fucking protagonist.
Yeah.
And then they also had that's when the third part of Sick of Truth came out. Those 3 games was like, you're my games publisher of the year. But they've slipped since then. But anyway, you're telling us about Vivendi, who are this French media conglomerate.
Yeah, Vivendi, so like I said, very slowly but surely been buying up their shares in Ubisoft. Apparently, according to French law, so when you reach 30%, when you hold or own 30% shares in a company, then you officially, by law, have to make an offer for the rest of the company, right? So Vivendi currently own about 25% of Ubisoft, so definitely I think within the year they'll get that extra 5% and be looking at what sounds to be a hostile takeover, right?
Yeah,
because
hostile as fuck, because Ubisoft do not want any part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. I think that quite a lot of people are a little bit upset about this, and they're looking at the worst case scenarios of what would happen when Vivendi probably do end up buying up Ubisoft.
It's been going on for years. Maybe there's a way that they can deflect this. It's a hostile takeover, and the reason it's bad for the people of Ubisoft is, even though Ubisoft themselves are an incredibly large, company, how many studios that they have all the world? It's a lot.
Thousands of people.
They're one of the top ones, but they still do not want to be owned by a company, Vivendi, which, from all intents and purposes, from my research, strike me as people who don't give a shit about computer games, give a shit about them profits, and they want to buy Ubisoft because they've seen Ubisoft as one of the one of the best producing, one of the best selling games companies in the world. They want to acquire that, then they can increase their profit margins. Ubisoft, of course, do not want this because they want to own their own properties, and most importantly, they want, if Vivendi take it, then Vivendi gets to tell when shit is released.
Yeah,
whereas Ubisoft want to say, listen, Assassin's Creed Egypt is ready when it's ready. We can't release it now. Well, Vivendi, if they own the company, go, no, fuck that, we need it for Christmas.
Yeah,
blah,
I think
blah.
that's exactly right. I think the main worry is that Vivendi have also had a history in mobile games, and so they don't want to see these really good kind of high-profile IPs get kind of dumbed down for mobile and get pressured, like you were saying, into early releases when the developer themselves aren't happy with it because it's not ready.
It's funny you say about mobile games, because last year Vivendi bought a games company, a mobile games designer called, just check my notes here.
Was it Playloft or something, was it?
Gameloft.
Gameloft.
They acquired this company, Gameloft. Was this hostile as well? I think it must have been, because when I tell you why, the CEO of Gameloft is the brother of the CEO of Ubisoft. Huh. Isn't that weird?
Now,
family feud.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
These French, it's a blood feud.
Yeah. we'll see what happens with that one. Because
I'm being serious. There must be something going on
Yeah,
here. Like
it
the
sounds-
CEO of Vivendi must have had sex with some the Ubisoft's grandmother, and she didn't like it, and then all shit's gone to haywire. I don't know.
Terrible. We'll see.
But it's a very bizarre situation. But I last thing I want to say about it is I hope that it doesn't happen, because Ubisoft, as it stands, could do with polishing as it is, and they certainly don't need to be taken over by somebody who cares less about computer games than whoever the fuck is in charge at the moment.
Yeah, I think we'll hear some more
Slide
news
job.
on this very soon, maybe even possibly before E3. So we'll see what happens. Next piece of news we have is that Nintendo are ceasing production on the very popular 3DS.
I know, I'm surprised. I thought they were still selling gangbusters.
Yeah, me too. They're tying this also with the announcement that they are making a 2DS XL. So I think what we can gather from this is that Nintendo is basically saying goodbye to 3D.
Yeah.
It was a nice little gimmick for a couple of years.
I quite want one. Still.
The 2DS or the 3DS?
Not the 2DS. If you're going to get one, get a 3DS.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it fucks with your fucking life.
Eyes.
Which I'm sure it does, because the experience I've had with it has been pretty nauseating.
Yeah.
But with the new one, they sort of had some new stereoscopic technologies that made it
Yeah.
better. I don't know. I've not tried it, but I do want one. If I'm going to get one, I'm going to get the 3DS one. But as you were saying, they're doing this new 2DS one, which is I've seen it, and it looks more interesting, or at least more consumable than the original 2DS, which was basically this sort of slab. And you couldn't fold it, and you couldn't do this, that, and the other, and not being able to fold it, that doesn't make it very portable, does it? And it's just an ugly design. But now the fact that you can fold it and things like that makes it much more palatable. It's like getting the original DS. It's like the next generation brother of the actual DS, but without the 3D gimmick. And you can fold it and you can take it with you.
For me, it just seems like Nintendo are really going to struggle with their messaging on this one, because similar to when you had, for example, like the 3DS XL, there are games that will only run on that, won't run on the original 3DS.
That's the new 3DS, not the 3DS XL.
Sorry,
it's
the new 3DS,
yeah. Absolutely right.
And so, I mean, I would assume on this that even though they're calling this a 2DS, you're going to get games that only run on the new 2DS XL and not the old 2DS. It's like, can you imagine, like, for some people, right? For people that aren't as invested in gaming and the industry as we are.
Yeah.
Think about just, the regular mum who wants to go and buy the little Johnny and a nice little gift.
Ah, little Johnny. What?
Like, they're going to go into the shop and like, okay, Johnny has a 2DS, and the store clerk's going to be like, well, does he have a 2DS, the 2DS XL, or are you sure it's not a 3DS, or are you sure?
She's not going to know what's going on.
She hasn't got a fucking clue.
This is where the skilled, folk at Game, or I was going to say CX, but fuck you guys. The skilled people at Game would be able to, do the job properly and advise what is the best. So hopefully they'll be able to walk, clueless mother or father through that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The messaging, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
And especially considering that console's target audience, which is kids, so it is going to have to go through the breadwinner, which is going to be mummy or daddy.
Mum and dad. Well, I would put a bet on that next week they cease production of the 2DS XL and they announce a 4D XL massive console which you have to carry around in a laptop
and it
case.
Plugs into your frontal lobes, just making it 4D.
Unbelievable.
Nintendo snorting lines off midgets' cocks since 18.
Misinterpretation on a global scale. Cultural ignorance about English. English cultural ignorance. Na 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 football.
Hello and welcome to English Cultural Ignorance, with me, Oliver the Robot. Today we are talking about dwarfism, and drawing particular attention to Judd's massive error, midget. To clear this up for everyone, and by everyone I mean Richard, here is why using the term midget is offensive. The following is taken from the website Understanding Dwarfism. For well over 100 years, the word midget has been part of the English language. Like many things, over time and throughout history the use of the word has changed. This has led to many questions and possible confusion on whether the word is considered offensive and what is the correct terminology when referring to a person of short stature. While these days, the word midget is employed all too frequently, mostly as an epithet to taunt short-statured individuals, that was not always the case. Part of the problem in attempting to discourage the use of the word midget currently is that it was once used both routinely and comfortably in the entertainment world. More and more, however, in recent decades, midget has become recognized as a derogatory, hurtful term, a term of derision used to ridicule short-statured individuals. It is anathema in the United States because it is derived from midge, an insect, and because it has often been flung as an aggressive epithet at short-statured individuals in the streets. There was a time when the word was used as an umbrella term for those people with a form of dwarfism that were exploited and put on public display because of their unique psychical features. A sideshow. Not only is it considered highly offensive by the large majority, it is a word that identifies a person of short stature as a low spectacle, cheap gag, and sideshow act. It is a word that is humiliating and degrading, and when it becomes someone's only identity, it can lower their self-esteem, casts them aside, contributes to name-calling, teasing, bullying in school, eliciting stares, comments and ridicule, contributes to a decreased chance of employment later in life, and nothing less than contributing to a lesser chance to succeed in life. Because of these associations and the desire for people with a form of dwarfism to be accepted as positive contributors of society, it is important for our community to move away from the word and not be labeled as such. Thank you for listening. For more information about dwarfism, visit upprogram.com.
Misinterpretations on a global scale. Cultural ignorance by English. English cultural ignorance. Na-na-na-na-na. Football. Why can't they drive on the right side of the road?
Something I'd like to talk a little bit about, actually, that we've touched on a little bit about VR in the last couple of episodes, but I'd like to do a little bit more of a deep dive and a bit of a retrospective on VR and kind of the current state of VR being, now that it's been kind of out on the mass market for about 6 months. You know, what do we think is the future of VR? Like, how do we think it's been received so far? Has it been well received?
How it's been received so far? Do you not agree with me that the buzz seems to have died off remarkably since in the last 6 months?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost a persona non grata now.
I mean, you look back at kind of just talking about PlayStation now VR, but when they announced VR, like there was all these quotes going around like we're treating this as a new console, you know, everything that we have at Sony is being put into VR. And then 6 months later, where are we? Like, there's very few games being released. There's not even that much.
Very few. You get 1 or 2 a month, if that. They're about an hour and a half long. Sony aren't particularly, you know, marketing in this or, you know, pushing it at all. It's as I said back in the day, 6 months ago, when the VR came out, it's a fad, man. I'm telling you right now, it's Kinect, it's Project Natal over and over again. And I get people coming up and saying, this is the future of video gaming. And I will always tell you, the video gaming is about the slowest reaction between your brain and the pad. You do not need to make that reaction bigger. It's shorter, not bigger.
You see, I disagree. I think that, yeah, fair enough, the last 6 months of VR haven't been great. I think that's mainly down to a lack of push from people like Sony and all this kind of stuff, but I do think it's going to be the future of video games. I always believe that we're always going to be playing on a screen with a pad. There's always going to be that element of gaming, like sitting in your front room, but I think that when the technology becomes cheap enough and widespread enough, that it absolutely will become the future, not just of video games. Like, a lot of new technologies start off in the hub of video games, right?
Okay.
And then proliferate from there into the mainstream. Like, once things like virtual tourism kicks off, you know, for example, being able to put on a headset and instead of having to travel to the football stadium, you're there on the front line, in the front row of seats at the football stadium watching your favourite team, you know, or any sports, for example. Like,
I reckon that's got a market.
Yeah.
But that I don't think that's the same thing as being a video game, though.
No, I'm saying
that is like Sky coming out with the Sky virtual headset for Sky Sports. See Bolton Wanderers fight Fernando Hernandez.
Yeah, but what I think will happen is you'll have the PSVR and on the PlayStation you'll have a Sky app, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Similar to.
I can't see that happening because I reckon Sky will themselves getting on the app and getting on the, you know, the action and see money in it. I don't see them conglomerating with, you know, or, you know.
I mean, I can't see Sky making their own VR headset.
They should do. Because I've never thought about it that way until you just brought it up, and I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah. I think that is the future of VR. I think VR gaming, though, is a fad. But I think what you said, virtual tourism, I think that is a fucking fantastic idea.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's a weird one, VR. I would have expected if Sony and companies like this are really invested in it, then they are not giving the right messaging because we've heard very little about it. And I think that E3 is going to be make or break for it. They can either come out really, really strong and say, here's 20 minutes of great games that are coming to VR, or they're going to do absolutely nothing and they're not even going to mention the thing. Like Last year they gave VR. Did they even mention VR at E3?
I think they did. I can't really remember. All I remember is the dread of thinking if they were going to mention it or not, which I felt then. It's like, oh my god, here we go again. It's E3, and I don't want to spend that much time on it. But yeah, 20 minutes sounds fair enough to me. 20 minutes solid, just fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Really, really fast-paced, shooting shit out really fast.
Exactly.
Which Sony are known to do because they've nailed the shit out of the last two E3 conferences. They've been amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last E3 conference? We were like, the one before that was the one where Final Fantasy VII and Shenmue 3 happened.
Year of Dreams.
The year of dreams. Every dream has come true. So yeah, and then you're waiting. What they're going to do this year, and it starts off. There's no. It starts off. There is no guy comes out on stage. No one announces. It starts off with a fucking orchestra playing music, and then all of a sudden it's just God of War, the new God of War.
Yeah.
And then the first person who comes out on the stage is like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Hideo Kojima." After this is after like the 6 months of like all the chaos that happened with him getting released from fucking Konami.
Crazy, man.
So yeah, beautiful stuff. But let's not get too much into it now because we are gonna chew the shit out of E3 in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the E3 buzz is definitely starting, and people are starting to speculate about what's going to be out. And again, I'm hoping for big things. We'll see what happens. But I think that, just kind of the last thing I'd like to say on VR is that it's, like I said, it's make or break this time. I think either you got to go full in, or you just got to kind of let it die by the wayside, and with the rest of the unsuccessful video game peripherals that are now just stacking up very, very high with all those Guitar Hero controllers and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. I loved what I played in VR, like absolutely loved it. But without millions more people buying it, I don't really see it as having a successful future in the short term. But like I said, in the long term, I'm sure it will.
Maybe someday it will come back. I don't think the world is ready for it. I don't think the technology, most important, is ready for it. Because there is something to be said about having the headset on your head for so long. It's exhausting.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier about game demos, and I thought we'd touch on the subject again. Game demos, they're a bit of a dying breed, right? We don't get that many of them now again, with the exception of things like Prey, but there's been a bit of a resurgence, but in a weird way, of the game demo.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Mafia 3 or 4 months after release, has just got a demo.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, are game demos still relevant? What purpose do they serve in like the modern marketplace?
Yeah, they are incredibly still relevant. I was going to take issue with the fact that you're saying that they're not really a part of the gaming culture anymore. But then you said the resurgence, and that's absolutely right. There was a time when they dipped for a while, but then I think the 360 was the thing that sort of kicked it back off again. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now they seem to be not quite as relevant as they were when you used to go down to WH Smith's excitedly waiting for the PlayStation magazine and that new shiny disc with all those experiences that you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are more relevant than they were. But how are they relevant today? Just as they were before, pushing sales figures. And it's interesting that you've mentioned Mafia 3, because the strategy towards releasing demos has clearly changed. Let me give you an example of this. Mafia 3 comes out, what was it, last October? Last November?
Yeah,
something like that. So those of you who are not in the know, when a game comes out, its main time to get its hits, to get its buys, and the one that the game makes the most money for the publishers is in the first 48 hours. After that, there's an incredibly severe drop that you wouldn't believe. It's mad how far it goes off. And believe it or not, when you give games to CEX or your chosen second-hand video game store of choice, the publisher doesn't get any of that money. But anyway, so Mafia 3 has come out without a demo back in the day, in November. It sold as much as it would sell, and then something very interesting happened recently. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I don't really know, Mafia 3 demo hits the PS4 store, possibly the Xbox One store as well.
I think so, yeah.
So it hits the store. This is incredibly clever, because after that 48-hour drop off of the original release, now that things are cooling down again, you slap it out for free, people play it, and then they decide whether or not that they actually want to play it again. It's very, very clever. It's a new business model, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it comes down to timing, a lot of it. Like, they've probably picked a release window for the demo where there maybe isn't that much more or similar stuff coming out at the same time, and thought that, we might be able to get a few more sales here.
Yeah.
So,
I mean that is the idea with the release window being spring and that, because usually it's a very, very dry time period. Of course, this year it is a bit different, isn't it? This is a really bizarre year. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What were you saying?
No, I think that I remember game demos used to be a really big influence on me as to whether I'd buy the game, especially when we were looking at the PlayStation 1 period, where I would buy the PlayStation magazine every, I think, week or 2 weeks, whatever it was.
It was a month, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it might have been. And it would come with a game demo, a disc,
maybe
maybe 6, 9 games sometimes.
Yeah.
And from playing those demos, I bought Die Hard Trilogy because on the demo discs was the second level, like the on-rails shooting part, and I loved it. Lots and lots of games I bought because I played the demo. Now, obviously with like the rise of digital distribution, less people are buying magazines, and so magazines very rarely now get demo discs and that kind of stuff on them. But I still think there is a place for the demo, but I think it's down to the company to be very savvy about when they release the demo, what content they release in the demo, so that they're not giving away too much of the game. I think that they are still relevant, absolutely, but I think a little bit less, because now the demo used to be the main way that you could see the game in action, right? Now it's way easier just to jump on YouTube and just see a video or a Let's Play or something like that.
Yeah.
I probably will actually go and play the Mafia 3 demo, because...
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's free. Yeah. I loved the first two Mafia games. I'm probably not going to buy the Mafia 3 game itself, but I'd definitely play the demo for free just for an hour and see what it's all about. So before we started recording the podcast today, I went onto our Facebook page, which is Save State Gaming Podcast. You can check us out there. And I put a few questions to our beloved fan base. Any questions, gaming related or not, they could ask us and that we would answer them in today's episode. So we're going to start off with a great question from Craig Tong, which is, what's your favourite colour?
My favourite colour is fuchsia, because I'm full of uncertainty.
Can you describe fuchsia? What kind of colour is it?
I have no idea.
No idea, right?
It's purple and pink. You can't decide between the two, hence why I'm full of uncertainty.
Nice. I'm going to go for a nice teal green. I do like. I've always been a fan of my greens, but I feel teal is just the right shade between dark and light.
Can you give me an example of what?
Kind of like, imagine a nice green ocean, not like full of waste ocean, which is green.
That's what comes.
Just a nice, beautiful, greeny blue coloured ocean.
That's lovely. I've never seen that, because, but then again, I'm not as such an intrepid traveller as said gentleman that sat to the right of me.
I was in Blackpool actually this week, and it was.
Was that a lovely teal green?
The sea was brown, like literally poo brown.
Yeah,
was the colour.
Because all the unemployed smackheads stick a shit in there because they can't afford bog paper.
That's true.
If you're from Blackpool, I'm so sorry.
Don't be. It's not very nice.
Not for what I said, for the fact that you live in Blackpool.
Apart from the Pleasure Beach. Do you ever go to the Pleasure Beach?
It's not. Should it really be called the Pleasure Beach anymore?
I had a lot of fun at the Pleasure Beach.
When did you go to the Pleasure Beach last?
Last week.
Did you?
I did, yeah. Well, I'm working there, aren't I?
Fuck off, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we'll talk about this later.
All right,
this is really boring for everybody. I'll tell you about it later. Harshal Patel of Post Office fame asks, how does a snail get its shell? Any ideas?
CX.
I know.
Or cash generator.
How a snail gets its snail. How a snail gets its shell.
So having a stroke.
When a snail is born, it's kind of in this like almost eggy, like an egg kind of thing. And when it's born, the first thing it does is it eats the egg, which is it's very rich in calcium. And so with those nutrients, the snail will start to form its shell. And as it grows and as it consumes more nutrients, the shell just grows at the same rate as the snail, giving it its lovely home. There you go.
Sorry.
Craig Tong,
again,
one of our two listeners, asks, what are you wearing?
Nothing, I'm nude. How we record this podcast is our business.
I'm just going to check.
How we record this podcast is our business.
I'm wearing a Legend of Zelda t-shirt.
Pretty cool. If you want me to be, stop fucking about. I'm wearing my John Cena shorts, a Millennium Falcon schematic, and I'm wearing sort of, it's not quite Mick Foley Cat's Jack red flannel shirt, because it's got a bit of blue and black and looks a bit hipstery. But that's me.
It's a standard red and black grungy kind of shirt, right? A lumberjack shirt.
A little bit, but it's a little bit, the colours are a bit different. I don't think it's a bit more hipstery.
Okay, nice. Harshal Patel asks, how's the family?
Horrible, you know this, Harshal.
My family's alright, just alright. Martin Smith asks, why?
Why not?
Exactly, why not? Great answer. And the only actual gaming related question we had this week was from Harshal Patel, so thank you very much for your input. And it was, what is your favourite part of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time?
My favourite part was the whole relationship between Link and Sheik, and not knowing who Sheik was, and then the eventual discovery that Sheik is actually Princess Zelda.
Nice.
Spoilers, if you kick off about that, there's something wrong with you. It's been 25 years. I don't know.
Yeah, my favourite part of the game was definitely just the first time that you get out into Hyrule Field, and you can see the whole kind of expansive land in front of you, and it's that kind of, it was one of the first moments that I ever felt like, so you mean I can go over there? I can just run?
Yeah, it was,
and
wasn't
keep
it?
going?
Actually? Yeah, you're right. I never thought of that.
So yeah, just definitely like my favourite part of the game was just that initial feeling of like wonder and that wow factor of like, I can do whatever I want. This is incredible. So yeah.
Actually, can I change my answer? My favourite part of Legend of Zelda was getting lost in the water temple for hours and not knowing where I'm going and then giving up. You know, I finished the game, I got stuck on the water temple the first time round, but the second time round I played Ocarina of Time, I legitimately could not do the water temple.
Yeah, it's hard. Like it's really fucking frustrating.
That's the second time round. How weird is that?
Like, in fact, it's kind of a bit of a joke now. I think even in game design, like circles, the water temple it's a bit of a joke. It's like it's not really up to par, especially with the rest of the game, like the rest of the quality of Legend of Zelda. And on that note, once again, thank you everybody for joining us on the Save State podcast. My name is Saul. You can find me on Twitter at mynameissaul.
I was Richard Holmby. Please find us both at Save State Gaming on Twitter.
Perfect. You can also find us on YouTube and on our Facebook group, so do check those out, like, subscribe to all the videos. And once again, thank you very much for joining us, and we will catch you next week.
Yeah! Episode 8, baby!
This week's music was brought to you by Passion Hi-Fi, Yes Schwa, and Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. So thank you very much for your input, guys, and you can find links to their work in the description below.